Let me just tease this. So there's a big change hitting on March 1st related to reporting sales of properties, residential properties, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and they need to know about it. So we're gonna get to that. So that was the
Oh,
tease.
wow. I thought you were starting there. I was like, ooh, this is heavy stuff to start off
No.
with.
Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 570 with Tego and Tracy Venturi. As always, talking about what's going on in the Albuquerque and national real estate world. Albuquerque, mostly. I don't know. I like national stuff too, because you got to bring that context in, right?
I think you do that pretty much every episode, Tego.
Yeah, well, and I do have two stories related to national stuff that affect everybody.
There you go.
Well, not everybody, but definitely will have an effect on some housing. And Tracy, you've got luxury neighborhoods you want to talk about this week. I know you always like to talk luxury homes and what's going on around Albuquerque.
Yep. So this week we're featuring, drum roll please, Albuquerque's North Valley.
Yeah.
So many diverse neighborhoods and types of homes. So we'll get into that.
So I just want to lead off with, first off, let me just tease this. So there's a big change hitting on March 1st related to reporting sales of properties, residential properties, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and they need to know about it. So we're gonna get to that. So that was the tease.
Wow, I thought you were starting there. I was like, ooh, this is heavy stuff to start off with.
No, it's just people just need to understand what's coming there. What I did want to talk about is just what's going on in the market here in Albuquerque. It's we're in mid February now. I think it's fair to say January was pretty sluggish. It was steady, but we didn't have a huge sales month in January for the area. The latest thing on home values that I pulled from Zillow, they update this every month, and they have Bernalillo County at $340,000. That's value of
every house,
every home, right?
Every house in our whole metro area,
right. And they say that's up 1% from a year ago. Sandoval County, they've got it at $368,000.
So there we go. Everybody who thinks going to Sandoval County and Rio Rancho is cheaper, values are actually higher.
Yeah, values are higher, pretty much flat. They say up 0.2% in values for Sandoval County. And I know that has a lot to do with the fact that there's new homes coming in there. There's more construction. There's more supply in Sandoval County than there is in Bernalillo County.
For sure.
And then Valencia County, it's at $302,000, and not surprising, a little bit less. However, their home values have gone up almost 2%.
Yep.
Again, I mean, these aren't huge moves, but we're still seeing, moderate home price appreciation in our market, and going forward, it kind of looks like that. I mean, what are you seeing, on the street, Tracy? Let me put it that way.
Sure.
In home activity.
I think it's great that we have a number that says of all the houses, not houses for sale or have sold, but of all the houses, this is what the average is, or
Yeah.
But when you go to try to find a house at that average, it's very difficult, right?
Yeah, you think about Bernalillo County, it says $340,000. I mean, you can get a good house for $340,000, but depends on where it is. And certain areas, you're not going to find anything in that price range.
When I think of Las Lunas at $302,000, I think about the new homes there, where we used to go to Las Lunas to find the new homes that were priced at $250,000 not long ago. Right now, there's nothing under $300,000 for new construction there. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I remember in like 2019, in 2019, 2020, I basically said the $200,000 house has gone away in Albuquerque. Because in 2019, you could still find something decent, but those days are long gone.
Do you remember just a few years ago, Tego, D.R. Horton had a surplus of homes in Tomei area, sort of southeast Las Lunas area, a bit far from the freeway for a drive. And they were like, any house we have on the lot that's available, finished construction, we just need to finish this neighborhood, $150,000, you pick any of them. And I was like, Tego, we should be buying some of those houses.
Yeah.
You were like, nah, those are now not, they're not cheap. They're up that $300,000
Well, there's more construction
range.
going on in that area too, but of course the starter home there now is, $300,000.
Right. Away from the freeway.
Correct.
The new construction close to the freeway is higher than that.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. if you're right by the Facebook or Walmart distribution or, close to Main Street and I-25, the new homes, there's plenty of them on both sides of the freeways, but
Speaking
higher
of which,
price.
if you're one of the things that Los Lunas gets bagged for is really difficult traffic getting in and out of Los Lunas, right? Because you basically have the one intersection. Well,
One freeway exit.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple, but basically the main one that brings you into the village. Well, that second bridge across the river, that's the issue, is getting across the river. That second bridge across the river, I've been seeing some of the photos in progress. Tina Aragon, who's a realtor down there, she's been posting updates on it. So that bridge is coming along.
That's great.
That's a little further south, but
Right.
that'll really help Los Lunas and get rid of some of those bottlenecks in traffic right now.
Of course, when I go to Los Lunas, if I need to go to whatever downtownish Los Lunas, not someplace right next to the freeway, I get off at the Isleta exit and take the back road, and I drive the speed limit because everybody knows you don't want to speed right there through the reservation.
No, you don't.
Yeah, or through Bosque Farms.
Of course, yeah.
So, okay, so that's sort of the update. I think the pulse on the street is we've seen warmer than normal weather. And I always say our market heats up. If you're thinking of selling your house, our market heats up when it starts warming up and people feel like spring is here and they can feel summer coming and they want to get moved over the summer. It's usually March, mid-March, late March. Well, we've felt a bump. I feel like this start to February. I know you probably know the numbers, so I could be wrong.
As you're talking, of course, you see I'm looking at my laptop because I'm looking at the numbers. Let me give you an idea, right?
Wait, no, let me finish.
Okay,
so we have seen more buyers coming out. We've seen more showings at houses we represent for sale. We've had several instances with multiple offer situations on houses we've listed and for buyers on just our team. So now you tell me the numbers.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, we've seen a pretty strong uptick in weekly pendings. So just to give you an example, last week in Albuquerque area, 223 homes went under contract or pending.
And probably about 6 or 7 of those are with us and our team.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. But, and so, I mean, I say it's sluggish, but yet, there's and that was just single family detached and not new construction. So maybe it's closer to 250. So there's plenty of activity out there, and there's people still, transacting and buying and selling. So,
yep, I feel it. I feel like, it was above normal temperatures, has been. Except for a few blips here and there where we had a storm and now we've got another storm. But I think people were feeling like spring was coming. I saw something, Tego, and I wanted to kind of talk about it. One of the stats I saw is people waiting for a interest rate in the 5s, right? That's been the news. I think everybody that listens to our podcast.
Where did that come from?
Well, I think most people that are on the sidelines thinking, I should buy, but I want to wait for interest rates to get below 6. I saw a stat that on average, would you miss out on a great house for $80 a month?
A month, yeah.
Right? And where interest rates are right now versus if they go down, it might be as little as $80 a month difference. So I think it's time if you're thinking of buying a house. Let's get out there and
I just wanted to say, I wanted to look at the number. That's why I looked back at my laptop. Is actually rates are right at 6% right now, which they've dropped recently over the last week or so. So, I mean, they're always fluctuating, but they're right in that 6% range. And with mortgage rate buy downs and other stuff, you can get into the 5s. And I think FHA is already in the 5s, 5.63 when as of, this moment. Of course, with FHA, though, you've got mortgage insurance, too. But still, it's, they're in the 5s.
So we're in the 5s. So if you're thinking of buying, let's start looking at houses for you because we don't want you to wait until March or April when everyone else is looking. We don't want to have to compete for that house you want and maybe offer a higher price or other incentives for a seller to pick your offer over someone else's. So let's get out there when the weather's bad. This wind that came in this past week and, it was all pretty one day and the
Felt
next
like we
day,
woke up in Oz or something.
Yeah. And, it's cooled off.
There's your movie reference, Sam. Yeah.
for the weekend.
Yeah. So I wanted to just talk about that because you said buyers, but the reality is most buyers are also sellers.
A lot
Right.
of times, yes.
And so they're selling somewhere, or they're they're thinking about buying. Yes, they're waiting for rates to go down, but they're already in a house too, right? So there's that complication as well. And again, we can help navigate that.
We just did that. We have that beautiful house that we listed in Cedar Crest, a Venturi listed in Cedar Crest. Got it under contract and now has them under contract on a house to buy that's contingent on the sale.
Okay.
So
what is a contingent sale? What is that, Tracy? What does that mean? When you say buyer sale contingent, what does that mean?
that means that the buyer is under contract to purchase a home, but it's contingent on another property selling and closing. And it might be a property that's not even on the market yet, which it's really hard to get that offer accepted. Or it might be a property, which most cases it's a property that, was for sale, is under contract, has a closing date, and that has to actually close for the buyer to move forward on the buy. So that's a contingent sale.
So good. We can call that our question of the week, which was, what is a buyer sale contingency?
And, it's not that uncommon. We've helped many people in the last 3 to 6 months with buyer sale contingencies where they do have a house to sell and they need to buy, but they have to sell and have the money out of that house to be able to buy.
Well, what's interesting about that is, when during the crazy days of, let's say, 2021, 2022, sellers weren't really open to accepting a contract where the buyer had to sell their home first.
Right.
Because the market was so strong, there's no reason to. Well, these days the market isn't that way. It's a little more taking time.
A little more balanced.
So sellers are a little more open to accepting that buyer sale contingent offer.
Just to get a little deeper on that, Tego, sometimes we make a contingent offer based on a house having to sell to be able to buy. But in reality, the buyer could buy that house without selling the house. They don't really need the money out of their house to afford and qualify to buy that house. But we don't really tell the seller that. We say it's contingent on the sale. And if they get a better offer on that house, if it's still being marketed, and that's a whole different topic, the buyer can say, no, I'm going to remove my contingency and move forward and buy the house anyway. So
yeah. I think what you're saying is, it's not being dishonest. You're just saying, I would prefer that I get my house sold before I buy this other home.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I can't do it. But
I'd like to use the cash out of it versus cash from something else,
Right.
or a higher loan amount or something.
Well, and we've seen people, dip in and do, margin loans and all kinds of crazy stuff, or 401k loans and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Sometimes if we can't get your house sold and you don't want it on the market, but you want to buy, there's other bridge loans. There's other ways to maybe get the funds and stay in your house, buy your new house, then move, then put your house on the market. But that's where that consultation with us as your realtor is really important, to figure out what options best for you and what resources are out there to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about luxury homes. You had an area you wanted to talk about, and I'm specifically saying it's an area. Because when we say North Valley of Albuquerque, that is not a city. That's not a village. That's not a thing. Because North Valley could be Albuquerque, city of Albuquerque. It could be unincorporated Bernalillo County, or it could be Los Ranchos, right?
Los Ranchos de Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So that is a big area. I was trying to fit in the Chinese New Year conversation. So I can't really fit that into the North Valley luxury homes, so I guess I don't get to talk about it. Okay, so let's talk about the North Valley. So I did pull some stats, Tego. I just helped a luxury seller in Corrales. We have another Corrales luxury property under contract right now, but I was looking at the North Valley in contrast to Corrales, and I looked, when the realtors look at what is luxury as the top 10% of the home prices or whatever. But I did a $750,000 and above. I think the actual number is more like $650 and above.
Yeah, it's like $620, $650 is where we're at right now
in our market.
Top 10% of all the homes. Yeah.
People at a $650 don't think of their house as luxury these days. I don't think, or it's It's a more normal.
Why are you dissing on those people that have
Anyway,
$650,000 houses?
I did a search from 750 on up, and then I did it at 995 and up.
Yeah.
Because when we think luxury, I think we think $1 million properties. And there's a lot more of them. You know, a lot more properties are moving. You know, we listed this property in Corrales 2 weeks ago for $1.6 million, basically $1,595,000. We had a ton of people at the open house, and we had an offer basically the first day on market. But that tells us there's a lot of people searching that are looking at high-priced houses.
They're looking for
homes.
these really special properties, and that was a very special property, but there definitely are people out there looking for homes like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip right to the 995,000 and above. This is 1 year of statistics.
Okay.
Right now there's in the North Valley 20 on the market.
Can we define what do you consider the North Valley? Is it everything from
I-40 to the river?
I-40 to the river? All the way to I-40?
I-40 is east-west.
Maybe it's more the railroad tracks.
You're talking north-south, Tego. That's I-25.
Oh, you're talking I-40. No, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I-40.
I-40.
The other
is
I.
east-west.
Yes. Okay. So
All
you're
the
saying
way.
everything north of I-40.
Everything north of I-40 to the river.
Which is basically central.
And then it's kind of to the railroad track, Edith-ish.
Yeah.
All the way up to Sandia Reservation, El Pinto area, and follow the river. So all the way to North Alameda area.
So it's a large area.
It's a large area.
And you say everything east of the river, but there's also some west of the river places that are still kind of that same thing. But really, when we say North Valley, we're talking east of the river.
I am. I'm not talking West River Valley, where there are some very special luxury homes. Yeah. So some of the neighborhoods. Before I give you the numbers, let's talk about some of the neighborhoods in the North Valley where you find luxury homes. We've got Tinnen Farms.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Prado. We have, kind of the whole Guadalupe Trail Road. We have all of Rio Grande, where there's not like a neighborhood, but homes along Rio Grande where they could be 1 to 3 acres or more or less. We have the Meadows in Thomas Village right there. El Caballero, north and south.
Yep.
El Caballero north allows horses. El Caballero south doesn't. Lee Acres across from Sadie's. There's a few luxury homes in there.
Well, that's more of a older classic neighborhood. I think at Dietz Farm too, same thing.
Yep. So kind of those types of places. The Los Poblanos area, where a lot of them are a 3-acre minimum, right by the Los Poblanos.
What we used to call the Buffalo Curve, but of course, buffaloes haven't been there for many, 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 many years on Rio Grande. But
no, but some of the fencing is still there. So anyway, right now, North Valley, 995,000 and above. There's 20 on the market actively, ranging from $1,049,000 up to $13,500,000.
13 million?
That's what it says.
Holy.
It's 11 days on market. Maybe it's just a wrong price. It's got no address. It just says Rio Grande Boulevard. And it says it's 8 acres.
Okay.
So they're thinking it's subdivide and make it
it must be, okay.
Yeah, which is typical. So interestingly enough, of all these, I always think if I'm going to be in that price in the North Valley, I bet it's a big lot. Well, there's one in here that's less than a half acre. But most of them, there's a third of an acre on Lavender Place and Lavender Farms. But most of them are close to an acre or more. Average price per square foot. So I want to give them all three together of active, pending, and closed. Average price per square foot for the active ones is $430 a square foot.
That's heated square foot.
Yep. Pending is $393. And closed is $354. Big differences on active, pending, and closed price per square foot.
Not surprising. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about Bonita Rosas. Yeah, all sorts of great neighborhoods. Average days on market right now for the active properties is 147 days. The pending ones, the average days on market is 53. Okay, remember the price per square foot was significantly less by about $35 per square foot, sorry. And the average of the closed was 73 days on market. So The active ones right now at 147 are a big difference from 73. And that's one of the things that you've talked about a lot, Tego, is we've got the closed days on market, but then all the ones that haven't closed that
Yeah.
are way out there.
Exactly. No, and that's a good distinction. We always talk about, what's the average days on market, and then you say, okay, well, it sold in average 40 days or whatever it is right now, somewhere around there. It's like, well, that's average for homes that actually sold,
Right.
not for the homes that didn't sell. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of our favorite things
I
about the
want to go
North
back
Valley.
I want to go back to a $13 million house.
And you found it.
I found it. I just looked it up. $13 million,
13.5.
13.5. It is 11,269 square feet. It is, like you said, it's 11 acres.
8 acres.
8 acres. 8 acres. It has 8 bedrooms. It has 9 bathrooms. And it looks
it's basically 1,200 a square foot, but that's because of the land.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very, very special property.
Is it mapped somewhere on
Yeah,
Rio Grande?
it is. It's on Rio Grande. It's between Rio Grande and the river, just not a little bit north of Tennant Farms.
Yeah,
So
that's where I would guess it to be.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some of our favorite things about the North Valley.
Wait,
Okay,
I'm
I'll
gonna
go
look at
first.
the photos of this house.
Okay, so walking trails, right? Lot of ditches throughout the valley, so you can take your horses, your dogs, your whatever, and go for walks. If you get to various places along the river, there's a paved path, so you can rollerblade, bike, walk. You can walk down into the river, the North Valley, the Nature Center, which is great. We used to take the kids there all the time.
Yep.
Great restaurants in the valley, right?
course.
I already mentioned Sadie's, but
Yep.
there's plenty of others
Mhm.
all over. And what else? What else do we like about the North Valley? It's very rural, yet you're minutes to the city, minutes to good shopping, restaurants.
Well, and that's just it.
Downtown.
You get the rural vibe without the, but still being convenient to a lot of the amenities of the city and the freeways and the airport and stuff like that. The Los Ranchos, park and that whole complex is great. They've got, the courts, and they've got, big yard there. They
have an event center.
the
They
event
have
center,
tennis. They have the playground. Our kids used to call it the Blue Park.
yeah.
All their parks were named by the colors.
I can't, farmer's market. They have a farmer's market there,
on
right?
Saturdays.
Yeah.
Through the winter, it's limited to certain Saturday mornings. But boy, for people who are regulars at the growers market there, they see each other on Saturdays. They chat. They often have an arts and crafts area as well. It's a great community space for sure.
I'm still looking at the photos of this
Okay.
$13 million house. It is extraordinary. This would be I think by far be the most expensive property in Albuquerque.
Okay.
I can't think of any that are
I'm
more
sure
than that.
everybody can get online on our website at welcomehomeabq.com and search homes in Albuquerque and put the price in of $11 million and it'll come up.
Yeah. Oh, I just looked at the name of the owner. Okay, now it makes sense.
Okay, so let's move on, Tego. We want to talk about this really exciting subject called FinCEN.
Oh boy. Woo!
FinCEN. I mean, I just can't wait. I'm
This
so
is
excited
good stuff here.
to talk about it.
This is federal government compliance rules. Yes, exciting stuff.
Very exciting. So FinCEN, tell us
Well,
the Cliff's Notes, Tego, what FinCEN is.
Well, let me start here. Who this really matters to are people that buy with cash or sell with cash, or, sell a property and receive cash, or real estate contract. They call this, a lot of people are calling it like the cash purchase thing that compliance. Well,
What are they trying to, why are they doing it? What are they looking for? Why is this a rule now?
this is a rule. It has to do with basically people breaking the law and
Money
trying to
laundering.
move money and money laundering, right? It's anti-money laundering. And anybody getting a loan through a traditional bank or through a traditional channel, all that stuff is checked. They've got anti-money laundering things in place. However, if somebody's paying with cash,
And buying an $11,500,000 house.
Yeah.
Suspect.
yeah, that's sus, right? So
If
okay,
it's
not that,
cash.
but cash. So now what the government is going to be doing now is anytime it's a cash purchase, the buyers have to basically disclose who they are. There's a whole process of anybody that has beneficial ownership of that property. They have to disclose, they have to, give identification. Could be a social security number, could be a TIN number. It could be even a foreign passport, but they just have to identify who they are. So there has to be some positive identification.
And they identify it to who?
There's a reporting procedure, and there's certain people that are now, if they close a transaction, they're required to report this. So in most cases, it's going to be the title company or the escrow company.
Escrow for real estate contracts?
Well, yeah, let me put it this way.
I'm making it hard.
Well, no, you're not, because I had this question when I posted it the other day. If somebody said, well, we just won't close with the title company then, and we can just avoid it. It's like, no, there's no way you can get around it. Even if you and I do a handshake deal and I go down to the county and try to record that deed, there still has to be reporting involved. So there's no way to get around the reporting. And so there's a whole structure of who's responsible to do the reporting and stuff. But in most cases, it's going to be the title company, or like you said, if it's closed at a escrow company for like a real estate contract, then they would be responsible for that reporting.
Okay. So we're trying to figure out, I guess, where the cash is coming from. Is that what the government's trying to figure out?
I don't know if they necessarily want to know where the cash is coming from. They want to know who the person is that's buying this. They don't want these shell entities buying properties with nobody behind it. They want to know who the beneficial owners are.
Okay, so if it's an individual person buying with cash, do they have to supply this?
No.
So you're saying it's entities.
Yeah, we should back up. I know we got ahead of ourselves here. So
it was just so exciting that
I know.
We got ahead of ourselves.
It applies to residential property, including vacant land that's zoned as residential.
Okay.
Right. So think about those 80,000 lots in Rio Rancho, right? That we sell for $3,000 sometimes, right?
Less.
Those would be, reporting would be required.
If the buyer is
something
other than a person.
Correct. If it's a person, it's not required. But if it's an entity doing the purchase, because if it's a person, you have to identify yourself.
Right?
Already. What they're trying to avoid is having this again, shell company. I can't think of a better name for it. This offshore.
Is it like an LLC?
Yeah, like an LLC that's nameless. Who is this for? They want to know who the person is behind that entity.
Okay.
And
so
let me just finish. The other thing is again, it's only cash purchases. However, New Mexico, we have a lot of real estate contracts. That is technically financing, but it doesn't fall under the anti-money laundering thing that all the banks have to go through. So those are also going to be required to be reported. Okay. Again, if it's an entity as the buyer.
So who's going to see this information? Is it public?
No, it goes to the government, and of course you can trust them. They'll keep it safe for you.
So like, let's say I'm putting my house in a living trust.
Come on, that was funny.
Yeah, funny. Okay. There we go. If I'm putting, we have a lot of people who have their houses in a trust, right? Is that going to be something that this applies to?
No, those are exempt. And if it transfers at zero value, then the reporting isn't required, is my understanding.
So it wouldn't be cash anyway.
Right. You're basically just transferring it from your personal name to your family trust.
But if I'm selling a house that's in a trust, or I'm buying it in my family trust, then I would have to.
Correct. So it's entities, LLC, corporations, trusts. What else would there be? Partnerships, stuff like that, where it's an entity.
So
this the buyer.
Do you know what happens if we don't give the information?
I don't know. I think it's pretty bad.
I heard there's going to be jail time.
Wow.
Maybe.
Well, I guess if somebody's, trying to basically has a business of kind of sneaking around this rule, I could see where they go after them.
Do you think this relates?
You know what I'm worried about, Tracy, is
Tell me,
here in Albuquerque, we have Fidelity, we have Old Republic Title, we've got, Stewart Title, we've got First American Title. We've got these big entities here in Albuquerque that are title companies that have a lot of resources, right? You go out to Cibola County, San Miguel County, some of these smaller rural counties around New Mexico, they don't have this. In fact, if I'm not mistaken,
you mean they're not ready to take care of
Well,
this rule?
they're having a hard, like in Grant at Cibola County, I think there's one title company, if
I
I'm not
know I
mistaken.
closed a house there.
Right. So, I mean, it's like these are small operations. Now they're going to have the burden of taking on this additional reporting. And so what may happen here is title companies may start collecting an additional fee for this, a processing fee, if it's a cash purchase with an entity or a real estate contract with an entity, they might start recollecting it. One thing also, it really applies to buyers, but sellers need to know about this too, because if the seller is selling this property to this entity that has to report, they're also required to prove their identity, again, Social Security, whatever. I mean, it's not a
Just
big deal.
stuff we're kind of used to giving
Yeah.
to title companies anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So this is going into effect when?
March 1st.
So I think about all the changes we've had in business over the years, Tego. Do you remember the hazardous materials for like putting chemicals at workplace?
MSDS sheets.
The MSDS
Yes,
sheets.
I was in human resources for a very short time, and we're dealing with that.
Yeah, things like that came in, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the hardest thing ever, and we have to retrain everybody. And then things like TOM money, like time off market money. Oh my gosh, who's going to facilitate this? And then we have this, and it's a huge deal because the title companies have to get things in place. 6 months from now, this is going to be old news. But right now,
you're right.
It's a big hassle for everybody.
Think about what happened in 2024 with the realtors and the big lawsuit and the whole thing about commissions and disclosures and that whole thing that we talked about a lot.
Right.
And, I was on that story from day one, like actually long time before it actually even came out.
Right.
Knew it was coming. And everybody in our business, not everybody, a lot of people were freaking out. And I was never
big change
too worried about it. I was like, we'll figure this out, and we have, and it's fine. It's just a different process. We were so used to an old process. Everybody's just used to that's how we did it. Well, now we do it differently.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing here.
It'll be interesting because if somebody really is trying to, launder money or whatever the underlying thing is, it might have to do with crypto or something. I don't know.
Well, no, the thing is, this is not brand new. It's brand new nationwide, but actually in select areas, this was already required in certain different zip codes, different areas, I guess.
I just am curious, down the road to see how much that really changes and affects people being able to use cash. But
it doesn't. It doesn't. All it changes is just one more thing to make real estate transactions harder to do.
I mean, if it's really somebody that's dishonest and trying to get cash moved around and invested into something because they got it illegally or whatever.
One thing that's interesting about this, and this, there's a lot of scams out there in our business, a lot of scams everywhere. But, one of the things is, as realtors, we'll get a call from somebody or an email or something from somebody and say, hey, I own this land in blah, blah, blah in Albuquerque or Rio Rancho, and I want to sell it, here, list it for me. And they'll give their name, right? They'll have an email address that looks like their name. Well, all they're doing is going to the tax record, getting the name of this, whoever the owner of that property is, and just pretending
they're
to
impersonating.
be them. Yeah. It's a whole scam, and we're pretty used to it now and know what to look out for. But again, this is one more safeguard where that person has to positively identify themselves as the owner of that property.
Right. That's good.
What was it? There was one other thing. Speaking of changes, there is a big change coming to New Mexico purchase agreements for buying and selling homes. We'll get into that more, I think, in a future show. It's probably still a month out, but we're going to start having what they call independent consideration, sort of like option money for the purchase being required on every purchase agreement. We'll get into that more later, and that's more kind of wonky real estate stuff. Not, most buyers and sellers don't need to know about it, but it is going to be something that's going to start coming up that'll just be different.
Yep.
Speaking of things being different.
So as we wrap up, Tego,
I've got one more story I want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say the U.S. House, okay, remember I said I had a national story?
Yeah.
U.S. House of Representatives, they recently passed a a bill. It's HR 6644. It's called Housing for the 21st Century Act. It passed the U.S. House. You know how divided that is, right? 390 to 9.
Wow.
Who are those 9 people? Who are those nine Congress people? Anyway, so that was pretty amazing. And it is a laundry list of changes to bills and proposals and acts and a lot of stuff related to HUD and what HUD does, housing and urban development, just a lot of stuff to help kickstart housing and with housing affordability. But the one that jumped out at me was they kill what they call the chassis tax. So chassis tax. So right now, on a manufactured home, right, there's a building standard published by HUD for a manufactured home. Well, one of the things that's part of that standard from the 1970s is it must have a chassis on it. So when people say a modular home, what they're basically saying is a home that's built to the normal, building code standards.
But
it's just built off site, but it's still built to the same building standard. There's no in-between building standard. Basically, you have the standard building standards, or you have the manufactured housing thing that requires you have a chassis on that thing. And so they're going to change the manufactured housing rules so it doesn't have to have a chassis. So you can actually just, crane a property and put it on the property, and it's not sitting up on a block on chassis, right? You can now ground set it, and so anyway, that's one thing that I thought was interesting, and there's been research done. They're saying, $5,000-$10,000
savings
per side. So if it's a double wide, $20,000 maybe, right? Triple wide, maybe more.
Wow.
So
that's big.
It's interesting. It's a way, because people wonder why we don't have more factory built homes, and this is one of the reasons. And so that's going to go away.
Okay.
Well, still has to go through Senate. Still has to be signed by the president. I'm sorry. So, but it looks like it's moving along.
Yeah, good. Okay, as we wrap up,
yes,
I still get to talk about Chinese New Year,
the
Lunar New Year.
Yes,
because we always celebrate. It goes through the 23rd. It started already. A lot of the Asian restaurants have special menus and things. And Gung Hei Fat Choi, Happy New Year, right?
Dragon dances.
And dragon dances. Is it lion or dragon? I guess it's dragon.
It's dragon.
It's like a lion head.
It's a dragon.
Anyway,
I don't know, Sam. Help us out here. I think it's a dragon.
We were talking and going, okay, dragon, Sam's on your side. So we're past New Year's. We're past Christmas. We just got to celebrate Chinese New Year. We had a fun time in our office. We decorated. But it's that kind of lull, Tego, where
we had Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. What did you get me for Valentine's Day? Where's that card or candy or... You shouldn't have brought that one up. Okay, so we were kind of going, what's the next big holiday? Because that Tuesday started, right? So it's Lent. So a lot of people have given something up for Lent. We have March. What's the big March one? It's St. Patrick's Day. So I guess that's the next big thing that we get to celebrate. But if you're thinking of needing a new home by St. Patrick's Day, give us a call. Let's sit down and do a strategy session. Figure out how we can help you and put the right partners in place and get you in a new home. But if you're thinking of selling, start now. Don't wait. It always takes longer than you think.
And if you are thinking this is about buying, this is the time of year where we do see a lot of more homes coming in. A lot of more homes coming into the market. So, keep an eye out there. Open houses. We have a website so you can look at the open houses. It's just abq.re.
Better, though, to call us and get a schedule and see all the ones you really want to see.
But anyway, abq.re/OH.
Yep.
Yes, open houses.
Yep. Okay. Have a good week, a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.